brought him back now for episode number 34. Once a year, he seems to have something really, really cool going on. Hey, John, outside of that new flashy haircut you got going on and the flashy blue shirt, what's going on with VBA Pro Course? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, thank you for having me back on. It's great. I don't know if I look 20 episodes older, but I definitely feel it.
You wear it well. You wear it well.
I actually noticed last time I was on, I think I had like the enhanced version of myself on there, which makes you look about 10 years younger. So
love that one.
Yeah, it's nice. It's a nice feature.
I mean,
I did it this time, just for the effect. But yeah, so anyways, I just launched the VBA Pro course, and it's going really well. It'll take you from a complete beginner to a VBA Pro. At least that's my claim, and I think it will. I think it does a good job of that. But yeah, I just launched it in July, and it's going really well. Got a lot of students in there, and they're loving it so far, and learning a lot about VBA. One of my favorite topics.
It's also Jordan's topic. What's up, Jordan? What do you think about that? Launching a new VBA course.
I think it's awesome. I think it's great. So is this kind of on your own learning, or is it guided? Tell our audience how one learns VBA with you.
Yeah, so it's definitely, I mean, it's based on a lot of my own experience with VBA, and I developed it based on like trying to use real-world scenarios and applications where you actually use at your job, versus just talking about theory and kind of conceptual stuff. We actually go through different practices. We even build out an add-in, a complete add-in file, which kind of replicates a simpler version of my TabHound add-in. So we go through the complete process to build it out, just starting from all the way from scratch, creating the add-in file, all the way to putting buttons on the ribbon and everything like that. And then we also build some spreadsheet, what I call spreadsheet-based applications, which more like use tables and use the spreadsheet more as an interface versus user forms. So, but I have more of a financial analyst kind of accounting background, so a lot of it is going to be based more in that experience and automating processes in that kind of world, those kinds of tasks that you might do every day, like budgeting, forecasting, reporting, just general data cleansing and analysis and that kind of stuff.
So do you start then in the courses? I remember we had a show, gosh, a while back where there was a difference of opinion between I think Jordan and Bill Jella maybe even on, do you record a macro and start with the macro and then from there alter your VBA code, or do you just script everything out from the beginning? What path do you follow in your training?
That's a really good question. So no, I don't start with the macro recorder, although I think it's a very important tool. I don't start there because I think it's even more important to kind of understand what you're doing with that code that the macro recorder produces. So the macro recorder is, producing VBA code, obviously, and then you tend to interpret maybe half of what is spit out of it, and a lot of it's not even usable. It tracks your mouse movements, your cell clicks, all that kind of stuff, which you don't even need. So I kind of start from square one and really explain the object model, how that all works, and how you actually reference common objects like workbooks, worksheets, cells, all that kind of stuff. And so we actually start by writing macros. And in the first module of the course, we do talk about the macro recorder, because it's hugely important. Like, there's no doubt that you're going to probably get started doing VBA with the macro recorder, and at least that's how I did it. And so that's definitely an important piece of it, but I think you can also kind of get stuck there sometimes too. So you don't want to dwell on it too much, because although it's great for producing little snippets of code, it's not going to take you to full automation. So I still use it all the time to learn, like, whatever that method was that you just showed, the application method that I've never seen before. The object model is massive, and you can never learn all of it, I don't think. But it helps to understand how it works and get an idea of where you can find those objects and those properties and methods, and then use those to your advantage, to build out applications and even just simple macros, just automating simple processes. So, okay.
Jordan, I know that you're in VBA quite a bit, and certainly you have to do quite a bit of training, I believe, as well. What are the challenges that you've seen with showing people VBA or teaching them for the first time?
Ooh, the main challenge I see, and John could, when he comes back, he could tell me what he thinks. But the biggest challenge I see is that a lot of people don't really know why they're doing things. So they're told to write this code, but it doesn't make any sense in their head. And they say, well, what's the end product? What does the end product look like? So one way I try to deal with this challenge is I try to show them what the final results is going to be at first, and then back into the different elements with the code. So that's really one of the main challenges I see. What about you, Sylvia? Because you do VBA.
Yeah, I do VBA. Well, there's different challenges. There's I guess on the teaching side, it's a lot of people who learn VBA are not only new to VBA, but just the entire concept of computer programming is totally foreign to them. So there's a bit of a learning curve there. But it's also, one that I continue to a challenge I continue to face myself is sometimes old habits die hard, and you figured out this awesome macro and you're so proud of yourself, and then next thing you know, it's like, oh, I didn't really need to do that. That was way overcomplicated, So just finding the right balance in that type of thing. So there's many challenges, I would say, but I also started with the recorder and kind of moved into figuring out the object model later on, because as I explain in my book, did I mention I have a book? As I explain in my book, it's very hard to really get engaged in the topic until, at least for me, until you can kind of tinker around, So the recorder is a nice way to it's kind of like the gateway drug into writing full-on code from scratch. So.
Okay, so we do have some questions from some of your fans and some of your fellow bloggers out there who have some questions. They found out you're going to be on the show, and they're like, I got to ask that guy a question. Are you up for it?
All right.
Question number 1 comes from Chris Macro. He was on our last episode, Mr. TheSpreadsheetGuru.com. And how you doing, Chris? Question number 1 from Chris Macro. Mr. Chris Newman, you have made a lot of creative Excel add-ins and tools over the years. Where do you get your inspiration?
That's a good question. I think from daily problems, really. It's all of my add-ins have come from just trying to find a solution that Excel doesn't have built into it, and a lot of it is. And one reason I love VBA and teach VBA is because it allows you to get away from doing the same boring, repetitive task over and over again. So my add-ins are probably kind of just an extension of that. Things like the TabHound add-ins, it was really just based on the ability to search for a worksheet and jump right to it. Just be able to type the name of the worksheet you're looking for and get there without having to navigate through a sea of spreadsheets or tabs in a workbook. Same with the PivotPal add-in, same thing. You just if you have a field or a pivot table with 30 fields, it takes you forever to find that field in the field list, and there's really no search, depending on what version of Excel you're using, there's really no search feature there. So that add-in was all based on just the ability to search for a field by typing, just like you would in Google or Bing, and being able to search the name of that field and jump right to it and then add it to your pivot table. So I think a lot of the inspiration just comes from banging your head on the table doing the same thing over and over again every day.
So they say all great entrepreneurs, whenever they're looking to create a product, they listen for a few key words. They listen for the words, I hate it when. And whatever comes next is the product you create. Yes. So it sounds like that's what you're saying, whatever, I hate it when, and okay, that's what I built.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, a lot of those have just been my own I hate it whens. I do try and take into account what other people are posting on the blog or leaving comments with their own challenges. When you sign up for my newsletter, I send you an email just asking you what kind of challenges you're facing with Excel. And that's one reason I created the VBA Pro course, is because well, not everybody, but a lot of people are interested in learning VBA but don't really know where to start, and so that's just, so they're probably frustrated with that task as well, as doing the same boring report over and over again and wanting a faster way, and obviously VBA is one way to get there. So yeah, definitely.
Well, I have two more questions for you then. Next one is from Ryan Wilson. I believe Ryan Wilson might be the guy we met out in California. Not sure.
Yep.
Friend of the show.
California.
Hi, Ryan.
California. So anyway, Mr. Ryan Wilson asks,
All right.
what is the one thing that you've learned in your later years of VBA programming that you really wished you would have known when you first started using VBA?
Yeah, that's an awesome question. I haven't had a lot of time to think about that one. I did leave a comment below, with the first being the object model. Again, I probably default back to that, but that's one thing where I honestly didn't have a good idea of what I was doing in VBA for a long time. I mean, you could use the macro recorder and you can search online to find the solution you're looking for and kind of piece it all together. And that was really my first experience with VBA. And I wish I'd kind of had a better understanding of how the object model works and how you can find the objects and also properties and methods within the object model and how that's all connected. I think that took me a while to figure out. That's definitely one major area. And then the other thing I said was loops, because loops are another huge, and they save so much time in VBA when you learn or write your first loop and understand how that works and how you can just loop through a process, because a lot of what we do in Excel is just the same thing over and over again, whether it's copy and paste or adding the same field to a pivot table or filtering a table the same way. Those are things we do a lot over and over again. So when you can write a loop to handle all that in like less than a second, it changes how you approach Excel, and also lets you sleep a little easier at night. So.
Speaking of sleeping easy, Jordan?
Yeah, so I have something that I want to add on that, because this is a good question, and it just came to me, the thing that later on, and it's not even really a VBA thing. It's when you're typing in, let's say you're doing an if, and you type in then, and then you're not really sure what you want to do, so you click to another line, and then the design time error just pops up and says, hey, you need to complete this, and how annoying that is. And you can flip that off. You can flip it off, that pop-up, and for years, just bang my head, like, I know it's an error. But yeah, you can flip it off under the tools and the auto syntax check. I think that was a game changer for my personality. I became happier, I wasn't so grumpy all the time. Really, things just got better after that.
Started shaving your neck and everything.
That's right.
Yeah, and speaking of Jordan being grumpy, there's another question I have to ask John A. Campora here, because as we all know, so VBA's been around for a long time, and Jordan has a thing about Hungarians.
Yes.
Some of you may know about my origins. I'm a little partial to the Hungarian people, being one of them. So where do you stand on the great Hungarian notation debate? I know it can get kind of heated among programmers who are very particular about what they name their variable. I mean, I have my own methods, and I'm not necessarily partial to Hungarian notation. I kind of joke about it, but I know Jordan has very strong feelings, being the Hungarian hater that he is. So I'm curious where you are on this debate, John.
I don't want to start any fights either. I'm probably more on your side. I did have like maybe a little question or a quiz on that topic. Like, so if you had 3 variables, right, all the same, let's say it's called phone number.
Right.
So for people that don't know what Hungarian notation is, if we mentioned or declared a variable as phone number, the word phone number, Jordan would just call it phone number.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably call it lowercase l phone number. And then someone that was really into Hungarian notation would say lowercase LNG phone number, right? So that would be a good quiz. I'd like to take a poll on that, actually.
So what about you, though?
Okay, so I was actually thinking about this. Like, I do use Hungarian notation, and I would typically do a lowercase l phone number. But I was thinking that actually the LNG phone number, the longest one there, would actually maybe be the most efficient if okay, Jordan.
No, I mean, who cares? Nobody agrees with me on this.
I know. If you use the Control Spacebar autofill keyboard shortcut.
Yeah, that's true. That people have pointed out that there is an advantage there. That I just never use that. I always just sort of. Okay. The thing is that I always remember it because they're so memorable. No, I don't know.
I kind of go back and forth personally. When I started programming, I was like, oh, I should use Hungarian notation because so-and-so says you should, and I'm Hungarian after all. And then I just found myself naming my variables like Betty Davis and stuff like that just to amuse myself. And
Betty Davis.
Sort of stopped doing,
Wow.
I'm very much against that. No offense.
I
will say, I have one ally in all this. Bob Phillips doesn't use Hungarian notation.
Okay.
A very, very big friend of the show, huge fan of the show. He doesn't use Hungarian notation.
Okay.
You're building an army, a small.
So we agree.
That's
everybody agrees to disagree.
Yeah.
All
right.
So speaking of agreeing to disagree, we got one more thing for you, and then we're going to move on to our next section. So one more question from Mr. Chris Newman.
All right. Thank you, Chris.
Of agreeing to disagree. Option explicit. There's two camps. There's the Jordan Goldmeyer camp, who names his blog after it, worships at the altar of option explicit, loves option explicit. And then there's Bill, who says, God, that's a stupid name for a blog. Why do you even use that? So, are you Team Bill or Team Jordan?
Yeah, I know. I wish it said it on my shirt. I am Team Jordan in this case. Yeah.
All right.
I teach it in the course as, not a requirement, but a strong recommendation for option explicit. So, and I think Bill might be messing with you, Jordan. I think he secretly uses it too. I don't know.
No, he told me his coding is perfect. If it's perfect, you don't need it.